Is AI ruining social media or can it be saved? With today's special guest, Luke Linz, on the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Pro Writing Aid. Every word I write needs to be perfect. One typo in an email and I get dozens of replies pointing it out and saying, "Thought you were an author." That's why I trust Pro Writing Aid. I have every plugin and feature they offer to check my blog posts, and when I'm writing offline, no other tool even comes close. Score a lifetime license at servemaster.com/Pro Writing Aid. Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss, and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, where you will learn how to use artificial intelligence to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host. Now, I'm excited to have someone on the show who's young, who has a different approach, who's seeing social media from a completely different angle for me. Because I started off way in the AOL days when you used to ask people, "What do you look like?" And they would describe themselves long before digital cameras. So that's how long I've been around. Things are so different now. With AI entering the market, it used to be like a fake Instagram account. You just stole someone's pictures and you pretend it was your account. Now you can create AI images. And so many people are taking that approach, whether it's AI images that are fake or they're using just really generic stock photos. They're not stock photos, they're AI generated photos. They feel like stock photos and stuff. And what's your perspective on how AI has affected social media? Has it been a good thing overall, or just overall is it already starting off from a place that people are just misusing it?
Yeah. So when a new technology comes out like AI, where it's a massive industry disruptor, it's going to have pros and cons. And what we really just have to look at is AI is an inevitable future. And so we can talk about pros and cons and like everything that is amazing that comes from it and everything that's bad that comes from it. But really, it's inevitable that it's going to take over the future and it's going to be incorporated in every single business, in every single industry, and all a part of social media. So it's just how we adapt to that. And so in terms of social media, like for us, we run a social media agency. And so we develop people's personal brands. And so it has helped us in terms of creating content quicker and doing quicker turnaround times for people's content, because there's so many softwares that allow us to generate content just by taking this raw piece of footage right here and then being able to cut it up into tons of short form and long form content. The problem is that right now, the quality of the content obviously goes down when you're using AI because it misses the human touch. And so I think the biggest component is that right now AI is at its starting phase. And so there's going to be a lot of problems with it in the short term.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%, which is that AI's early phase, it's useful, but in order to convince people to use AI, these tools make these massive promises and then people believe them. They go, "Oh, ChatGPT can do anything," or this tool that creates social media clips, I can just push the button, it makes the clips, I push publish, I don't even have to watch them. Because I don't think it's 100% their fault because they believed it. And I know, because I've tested every one of those clip generators, none of them are perfect. I know that if I upload an episode of this podcast that includes the intro music, it will always pick the intro music as a clip. Like, I don't know why. And all of them do it. And it's not just one platform. They all go, "Oh, this is the most interesting part." I'm like, yeah, but it's in every episode. It's just music, right? It's just the intro music. So that's the critical element, I think, which is that we still need human oversight. And I definitely think that's the first place people are making a mistake, is publishing stuff they're not reading, which is, would you do that with an employee? Maybe, but you shouldn't, because when you post something to social media, like I've seen when a celebrity gets in trouble, "Oh, I can't believe they posted that." It was like their assistant that posted it. It's so unlikely that all these celebrities are doing all of their own social media accounts. It's probably one of their friends had the phone for the day. Like I used to watch that Diplo show. It was like, what would Diplo do? And he would just throw the phone to one of his friends. He goes, "You do socials today." And you never know what's going to happen. That's a lot of trust on one of your friends to maintain your name. But what do you think about the way people are, the difference between the hype and what it can actually do? Is that where the chasm is? Is that why people are over trusting of what it can do and putting out this lesser quality content right now?
Yeah, 100%. I'm actually not sure if it's AI right now that's getting people to put out less quality content. I personally just think that it's an oversaturation of the content marketplace, which was a inevitability of social media, like where every single social media platform basically starts off where it's at its the least hype, the least amount of people are posting content. And then once it picks up traction, then more people are posting content than what people can consume. And so there's an oversaturation of content being posted. And so I'm not sure if that was AI or if that was just the inevitability of social media. And I think the craziest things of AI are the components that you can use it for your content creation right now. Like the best parts are using bits and pieces where you're using the human oversight to it. And then you're just using AI to increase your efficiency in the areas. For example, AI is actually extremely good. ChatGPT is very good at creating scripts and prompts for scripts. So basically creating 100 variations of hooks that would take so long for the human mind to create. And then you just picking the best ones out of that, creating scripts from that, and then filming it rather than like having AI complete the full scripts just from scratch. You're using components of AI just to increase your efficiency in the process.
Yeah, you brought up something that I love, which is that I always ask for a bunch of options. So say, give me 10 headlines so that I can choose the best one. I always know if I'm choosing 1 out of 10, it's going to be better than choosing 1 out of 1, yes or no. So that's really cool that you mentioned that. I love that. And it's really interesting that you're thinking and seeing the way people can integrate using both, because at the end of the day, you still want a person to read the post or watch the video or look at the image and like it. So you have to removing the human completely. That's what AI doesn't have. It doesn't have the humanity. So that's so important, because I just look at the marketplace it's a lot of people are making the same kind of content because something works. Like everyone starts to make Mr. Beast style videos. Everyone is giving money to the homeless. Then everyone is faking those videos, right? Everyone's doing pranks. Then everyone's doing prank videos. So you do see that perpetual cycle of one type of thing works, then everyone does it, right? It was all reaction videos 10 years ago. Now, what I'm seeing more and more of, and what's interesting to me, especially when I look at platforms that are target older people like LinkedIn, you just see so much more content now that I can just tell was written by ChatGPT. And I can tell that they use Dolly to generate the image because it has that look, like the shininess. Like you can just tell that they used a really basic prompt and they didn't tell it to change its style. So it has that look, it gives it away. And I just want to get to a place where people see these tools as something that to enhance, because the biggest danger we mentioned before the show talking about now there's like influencers that are completely AI and sometimes they tell you and sometimes they don't. Something came across my Instagram. It was like the adventures of a Brazilian AI model. And I was like, this is, at least they're telling you, but it was also a strange way to say it. I was like, are you having adventures? Isn't it just some guy programming you? Like it's an interesting way to describe it. At least they had that honesty. And I know they don't always have that, but where the line is how people feel if they're that moment you realize you're talking to an AI or that moment you realize that person you thought you were following, right? Like, I guess we call it, I wonder if we're going to call it catfishing or change the name, right? Where you like
Deception.
you thought it was someone and it was someone else using that person's pictures online. Now it's instead of it being like, oh, I stole my cousin's pictures or I stole someone's pictures from Instagram, I'm just using AI generate images. That's the problem in marketing, is that if you do something and I go through a moment where I go, oh, I thought I was talking to a person, but I'm talking to AI, I feel stupid, right? We have that thing of, oh, I failed to deliver the Turing test because I thought you were a really person, but you're a bot. So I feel stupid. So now I hate your brand. That's how people respond. If someone makes you feel dumb, that's how you respond. You don't respond with, oh, good trick. You respond with hate them because it's, you made me think I was talking to a person. I'm so disappointed. So how do we keep our content still us enough that we don't risk that dangerous feeling, because that can just kill a brand?
For sure. Yeah. And AI is going to be killing brands nonstop over the next 5 years. And there's really two things with this, that any single person pushing out content, you don't even have to be a content creator, just if you're somebody who heavily uses LinkedIn, for example, and is posting content. Two things to maintain your brand during this like AI revolution, so to speak. One is authenticity, and every single person is craving authenticity right now with AI more than ever, is that they just want to see an authentic person sharing their experiences through life, their true problems, and exactly what they're going through. And so whenever we're talking with our clients for social media purposes, we're always talking about what's the authentic version of you? What are you wanting to authentically talk about? What skill sets do you have that you're authentically one of the best in the industry at? And then number two is you have to think about, as AI as a whole, what's one thing that they can't recreate for each individual person? And it's AI could never recreate your specific stories. And so that's the biggest thing that we incorporate in our clients' scripts is stories of their past and incorporate into the lessons that they're teaching about, is that the AI can't form your specific stories of your childhood, your high school, like all of these things that crafted you into the person that you are.
Yeah, when we consume content, we have one mindset, and we create it, we forget what we liked when we consume. And I think the best example of this is those contest shows, right? Whether it's the talent shows or the singing shows, the final episode will be 12 people and all 12 are underdogs. And they do that through their story. And it's like, they figured out that's how you get people to vote, right? Because you go, oh, I'm going to vote for the underdog. And all 12 of them have a crazy underdog story. And that's what's unique, because this is a lesson I had to learn myself, is that at the end of the day, I'm a commodity, right? Like, I'm not the person who first invented sending emails or building an online business or doing a website or even talking about AI, right? There's a lot of people that do it. What separates me is my perspective, my personality, who I am as a person. We sometimes think that to be on stage, we have to be this shiny version of ourselves that has no problems, and we erase the thing that's most likable about ourselves without realizing that's what we're doing. Because we go, oh, I need to be more professional. And we think professional means less human or less authentic, when you're exactly right. It's the opposite. It's like, I constantly have to remind myself that I've been doing this full time for, golly, almost 14 years now. Yeah, it's 14 years in
Wow.
a week. That's a really long time to be online full time. And there's things I don't remember. Like, I don't remember what it felt like to make my first dollar online. Not the way at the time where you're sunk into that emotion, that really strong feeling. And that's why I say to people, oh, even though you're a beginner, people really want to hear your story because you remember it better than I do. The things that get you excited don't get me excited anymore. If I get a payment for $50, which is a lot of money, right? But it doesn't feel the same as it did the first time it happened or the second time it happened. So you do get this experience, right? It's like the people that climb Mount Everest 15 times. It's not that exciting for them. Whereas for someone the first time, it's really exciting. And that excitement, that authenticity is the most interesting thing. Like, I'm hoping that the internet fractures to the smaller influencer scale to where, oh, most people are following an influencer who's got less than 10,000 followers. So if you message them, they reply, right? So that you're still significant. And that's what's interesting. Like, then I look for people to follow. I'm like, I don't want to follow someone who's got 1 million followers because I don't matter, right? But if someone's got 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers, they're making okay content. I can submit a question. They respond to it. That feels good. And that's an interesting place. I always wonder about the people that leave like the 500,000th comment on an Instagram post. Like, mathematically, the person who made the post can never read it. It's 500,000 posts. You can't read that in one day, even a second per post. So people do create these like pseudo or parasocial relationships with influencers. And then that affects how we perceive what we want to create as someone who's creating content. So for people that are just starting out, let's say someone that they're building an online business, they go, oh, I need to join a new platform. Like, now there's this new platform like Mastodon growing. Do I have to join another platform and try to figure out how that one works? Like, I grab my username and like, I hope it doesn't grow because I don't want to have to figure it out. But I hear more and more people talking about it, and maybe I'm way behind on it. But what do you think is the right approach when someone is saying, okay, I want to start creating content, start generating traffic, start generating customers for my business? Is it to create AI content and shotgun it across every channel and see what hits and then grow that channel? Or is there something more strategic kind of approach you take when you're working with your clients?
Yeah, for sure. This gets into a heavily loaded question because it's talking about every single social media platform. But the first thing is it depends on the type of audience the client is targeting. That's where it's all based off of. And in terms of what their goal is out of it. So a person who's looking to generate sales for their service-based business has a massively different goal than somebody who is looking to build their legacy and teach the younger generation. We basically break apart each social media platform and we pick which ones would be best for that client. So LinkedIn is like the business connections. Every single person in business should have a LinkedIn profile and should be posting like just a reasonable amount on there, at least like once a week, just to maintain a business relationship. And it's great to use as like a digital business card, digital resume. Then you got Instagram. Instagram, every single business should have an Instagram presence. And at the very least, if your company is just on Instagram, you should be using Instagram as your digital business card. The main thing that you interact with people in the physical world, most times you're giving them your Instagram page instead of your digital business card. So people should be able to see exactly what you do in the first 1 second of going to your Instagram page. And Instagram has come to a place of where it's not as viral. And so when you're posting content on there, it's more for the people who are following you, where you want to be creating content that, of course, like what we're saying, is as authentic as possible and is a good representation of your knowledge and the specific knowledge that you can give off of. And then Instagram, you shouldn't be really looking to go viral. If you're looking to expand to a huge audience and you're okay with reaching a lot of Gen Zs, then TikTok and YouTube Shorts is by far the best platform. So that's usually the combination we do for any single client that is looking to reach a very broad audience, but is looking to have massive exposure. And it's the combination of TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And usually videos that go viral on TikTok, they'll go viral on YouTube Shorts. And then just a quick tidbit in terms of like how to find viral content and how you can like recreate viral content is all you have to do is on TikTok, create a blank profile on TikTok, completely blank. You've never used it before, and go follow every single person in your industry that's a top creator and start liking all of the extremely good content that you think that you could replicate and is going viral in your specific industry. And then your TikTok For You page will automatically be populating with all of those viral videos in your specific industry that you can just recreate and put your own spin on it with your own stories within it.
Yeah, that's interesting because on TikTok, all I see are neighbor disputes or like it knows what I like. I can't stop watching those things and it's not
Neighbor
useful for my business.
disputes?
So that's why I have to, yeah, I'll just watch people like fighting. Like I watched 100 videos by a guy whose neighbor was convinced he was stealing rocks from his front yard. It's like such a funny thing to dispute about. Like they went to court, all of this stuff. That's the problem, is that the content I consume is not the content I create. Like people assume, because I've written 300 business books, I'm like, I would never read a business book. Don't do what you sell, I guess they say, but it's no, when I'm not at work, I don't want to be at work. So like the content I consume is nothing like the content I create. And that's just like why I have to be cautious on the platforms, because they'll target me with stuff that like is not useful for my business. I'm like, oh, I never see viral stuff because all I watch is really weird dad content because I got 4 kids. So that's why I like having your perspective, because when I started having kids, my audience completely shifted. When I was 30, my entire audience was 21. And then sometime around 33, my audience flipped to 45 up. And now I'm in my 40s. So of course they're all older than me. So something
That's
happens
better.
when you start talking about your kids, which is boring when you're single, but interesting. Yeah. It's just a shift. So I don't see the same stuff. Like usually I'll see a viral post like 2 years after it happened, because I don't use, and this is the thing, is that you can either be a consumer on social media or a creator. It's hard to be both. To spend an hour watching TikTok. So I'm like, and TikTok is very good. YouTube does not know what I like to watch, but TikTok can really get me. Even if I start a new account, within an hour, it's showing me content I can't stop watching. And I'll accidentally spend 4 hours on TikTok. So I have to be very cautious with it because it's so smart. But I think that's a really useful strategy for people to think about. I always tell people, make 50 TikToks that are based on, that have done well in your niche, and whichever one hits, do more like that. That's how you start to figure out what's right for you. And it's not, this is the hardest thing for people to understand. It's hard to explain. It's like, it's never what you think is going to hit in advance is what hits. Like I'll do 50 videos or 50 pieces of content. I'll go, this one's the worst. And that's what people like the most. And same for my books. My favorite book that I've written, people hate. My audience hates it. So no matter how much you love something as a creator, it's not always going to be what the audience likes, because it's a democracy. They get to vote. So creating a spread of content and then seeing what they respond to is a critical part of it in the analysis. Like, how do you guys approach the part where you go, okay, let's look at what happened over the last month and let's see how we can make this better going forward? Like, how do you approach, what are the factors you look for? Because I work with people that they just look at reach or they just look at views, where I'm always looking at, isn't subscribers, or even better yet, for me, email opt-ins are more valuable. I look at how many emails did I generate that day. That's when I know
Go out there and
even
you
if
still
it got
there?
less views, it got the right views. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at, that's what we're talking about, is like analyzing data and kind of making decisions going forward. think is the right approach for someone who is going, what do I look for as far as metrics of, is this campaign going well, or is it time to jump ship? The mistake a lot of people make is they go, oh, I have to be on every platform at once starting out. And it's so hard to figure out Instagram that it has to be the one thing I'm working on for at least a couple, like at a time. And then TikTok, of course, is its own kettle of fish. To try and learn 7 social media platforms at once, it's like making it so much harder for yourself. So I believe, especially if you're on your own, to just start with one platform at once. But how do you approach where do we double down and where do we go, oh, this one's not working? TikTok is working, YouTube Shorts isn't. Let's double down on TikTok. Like, what's your approach? What metrics do you look at? And what kind of tools are you using to help you with that process?
For sure. So I'll go into basically the mindset of when to keep going or quit it. And now we can go into all the data analytics and stuff after that. But what people have to understand is that social media is like a business. It takes as much time as a business and it takes as much manpower as a business of itself. If you're managing your own social media platform, it's a full-time job. And so usually you need to have somebody else managing it. And you need to understand that success with social media is not going to happen overnight. It's impossible. And you wouldn't expect for you to have an extreme amount of success overnight with a business that you're just starting up. But people somehow always expect to have overnight success with their social media accounts. And so with social media, if you're putting out content that's of high quality, you're giving off extreme knowledge in your specific space that you have a lot of knowledge, you're including stories and you're being authentic, there's no real reason why you should ever quit based off of any data or any analytics, because eventually you'll keep getting better and better. And eventually the content that you're posting will start doing extremely well. There's a differentiation that you have to have though, between this idea of wanting to go viral and wanting to have a huge following and be famous compared to just having a niche audience that is actually potentially way more valuable. And so this is at the beginning that you need to figure out who are you speaking to in your content. Because if somebody has 10,000 followers, but they're all business people on LinkedIn, they're all very high level CEOs, that could be more valuable than 1 million followers on, say, TikTok that is completely irrelevant to your business and is just younger generation youth off of just content that you posted that was a bit controversial. And so you need to pick like, what's your goal? Just like you would with a business, who's your target audience? And then just continuously post better and better content to that specific niche.
I think that's some really good advice because I've been posting stuff to YouTube like for 6 years. It's never been a major part of my business. I've just posted videos. Nothing's ever hit until a month ago. One of my videos hit finally for me. Now the channel's growing and it's getting consistent views every day. And it's just, I was reposting something I'd put on LinkedIn and I forgot I'd done that. But LinkedIn embeds YouTube videos better than it embeds when you host on LinkedIn, which is crazy. But that's why I done it. And this video just hit. I go, where did all these views come from? Because I'm not active with the channel, but now I'm like, oh, this is cool because I'm getting a little bit of traction. So I'll push it. But I find that I'm just creating content for LinkedIn and then reposting it to YouTube. So it's not taking too much of my bandwidth because there are so many moving parts on LinkedIn. There's newsletters and then there's responding to comments and then there's videos and events and live streams. And I'm trying to still learn all the pieces and they have the thing called carousels, like all these different types of posts you have to learn about. It takes a lot of bandwidth to learn all these things. So I like that you're saying to treat it like a business because a lot of people do approach social media with the luck strategy. Oh, it's like hitting the lottery. Like I want to be the person that gets 100 million followers because I do one funny joke. And I remember I had a follower on TikTok who had 100,000 followers. He goes, I can't, and he was doing comedy. And he goes, I can't make any money. And it's because the audience has nothing in common with each other. So no one wants to advertise with you because your audience is just general, right? So you can't advertise a specific product. Goes, oh, everyone who in this audience will be interested in the product. It's only going to be actually have 100,000 followers, but each commercial will only appeal to 1,000 of them because they're so disparate. They're different ages, different genders, different psychographics, different demographics. So having an audience that all has something in common with each other is much more monetizable. Like I have a very low website traffic. Like when people find out what my website traffic is versus my income, they're always shocked. I go, yeah, but it's the right visitors. Because if you can get the right people, then that's where it all is. A lot of people think they have a traffic problem. And I say, well, if your product was $1 million, you would only need one customer a year. So you don't really have a traffic problem.
Yes.
You have it's the right customer problem, because that's the thing. Like I one time got a cold call from a billionaire and he was like, oh, I didn't think you'd reply. And I was like, my experience of billionaires is that if I don't reply on the first call, you're going to make me reply on the second call. I've seen the A team. I didn't even know that was an option. When you see someone like that famous and that successful, you have to reply. So I was always surprised when he goes, oh, I didn't think you'd reply. And I was like, I really didn't think I had an option. With your level of success, you can make me answer. You can send someone to my house and hand me a cell phone and I'm going to answer it. I don't want that experience, so I'll answer the first time. But I love what you're talking about, because a lot of people think everyone wants to be Mr. Beast right now. Everyone wants the massive audience. And it's like, there are so many moving parts in that business. Like it's such outside. He has every video planned a year in advance. He's constantly doing film shoots. There's so much money going into each video and coming out. Like I had these two friends that's business was doing $2 million a year, and then they expanded and they didn't start making the same income again until they hit 20 million, because they grew and they
Wow.
had to 10x the income. And we forget the growth, especially when you grow in an area that's really expensive. Like his videos have massive production costs, right? Like those things, or having live events, massive production costs. So sometimes scaling means you make way less money with a lot more risk. So I like that you're talking about that. You only need, if you have the right 10,000 followers, that can support you for a lifetime. What if they're just each paying you $1 a month? You're making double the average income of an American, and that's a great life. Like we sometimes forget that there is real value if it's the right people. So I do love what you're talking about. So it's very interesting, a lot of what you're doing. I know people are going to really dig on this episode because you're doing some things that are very interesting. I know my audience likes to hear from younger people that are actually doing things that are interesting, have a good approach other than I just want to be an influencer, which is so hard. But seeing it as part of a brand strategy or a business strategy, oh, I want to generate customers from social media, that's very interesting. Where can people find out more about you? Where should they spend more time with you? See what your agency is doing. Maybe say, oh, this is someone I want to work with.
For sure. Yeah. Best place to find me would be on Instagram at Luke Linz, LukeLintz. And I'm really on every single social media platform with that, but Instagram's best place. I also want to just do one story about the last topic that we were talking about, because I think it could give
Sure.
the audience value. But I, I,
I love it.
I I was super lost in my own social media content journey of what I wanted to be known for and the reason I was creating content on social media. And so I fell into the exact same trap that I was talking about. And specifically on TikTok, I knew the type of content that would go viral because I knew the type of content I was consuming. And I knew I could create a viral video, but I didn't think of what would the repercussions be of creating a viral video that has nothing to do with what I want to do in the future. And what happened was I was at a party with one of my friends in Las Vegas, and I'm like, oh, this piece of content will go super viral. He put a jet ski into a pool and was riding around a jet ski in a pool, and just a huge party environment. I'm like, I know this piece of content will go viral if I edit it the right way. So I spent a couple hours editing it. I posted it up, and it ended up getting 6 million views on TikTok, and I grew 70,000 followers overnight. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. That piece of content I knew was going to go viral, and it went viral. But then what happened afterwards is it completely ruined my TikTok account, because when I started creating content that was directed towards the audience I wanted to talk about, which is personal development, growth mindset to the younger generation, none of them wanted to see it. And so TikTok pushes it originally to your followers, to a small batch of followers. And then based off of them liking it, then I'll push it to a larger audience. And so the people who I was pushing to originally were people who followed me because of this one like party type video, which has nothing to do with the rest of my content. So going viral is not the answer. It's figuring out the direction of the content you want to go for the long run and targeting that and continuously posting about that.
Yeah, I've seen people do that before, where because there are ways to go really viral on TikTok, like really silly things. Like my friend made all these videos, like, oh, there's no name that starts and ends with the letter A. And everyone goes, Amanda. And it gets you tons of comments because everyone goes, no, Amanda, you're dumb. Because people want to tell you that you're dumb on TikTok. And he went so viral and built like a huge following, but you can't make content that they actually want to, that you can monetize with. And that's really the important lesson, is that exactly virality, while it's cool and it feels really good. But then you go, there's this quote from Kid Rock, because there's nothing worse than being famous and poor. It's like, there's nothing worse than being a massive TikTok star and making no money from it, because then it's all people do at your regular job is ask you what happened. It's like you spend your entire life then like living in reaction. That stinks. So yeah, that's very cool. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a great episode. I know people are going to dig on it. I'll make sure that we give everyone your Instagram. That's at Luke Linz. I'll put the link in the show notes and below the video on YouTube, and make sure to share it out to the world. So thank you so much for being here. This is a very cool episode, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for everybody for listening. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Creating a masterpiece with Midjourney is hard. Not only do you need to know the secret prompting language, you need to know the language of artists. I needed a way to create masterpieces without getting an art history degree. And that's why I built the Midjourney Visual Dictionary, a collection of every single prompt with an example image to show you exactly what will happen, saving you time and thousands of dollars. Get free access at artificialintelligencepod.com/dictionary. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and tactics on how to leverage AI to escape that rat race. Head over to artificialintelligencepod.com now to see past episodes, leave a review, and check out all of our socials.